The return of Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, a journey through conflict, public response, and democratic lessons. Immediate conflict. The story begins in the Nigerian Senate chamber, a place meant to embody the nation's highest legislative ideals. But in March 2025, what unfolded was not the harmony of democracy, but a storm of conflict centered on Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan of Kogi Central. Her journey into this crisis was not accidental. She had made allegations of sexual harassment against the Senate president, Godswill Akpabio, a claim that rattled the core of leadership in the upper chamber. Rather than being handled through a transparent, neutral mechanism, her petition was dismissed. Tensions rose further when she protested the reassignment of her seat, a small matter on the surface but symbolically loaded. It was about recognition, about space, about voice. What followed was swift and severe. On the recommendation of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges, and Public Petitions, the Senate suspended her for 6 months. Her office was sealed. Her aides were sent home. Salaries and allowances were cut off. Even her right to walk into the National Assembly was withdrawn. It was more than just discipline. It was exile within democracy. For Natasha, this was not only a political punishment, it was an attack on her very identity as a legislator and representative of Kogi Central. For her constituents, it was the silencing of their only voice in the Red Chamber. And for Nigeria, it became the spark that ignited questions about fairness, gender dynamics, and the limits of legislative power. Public response. The suspension of Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan sent shockwaves across the political landscape. In Nigeria's media houses, on radio shows, in town halls, and even on social media platforms, her case became a national conversation. Civil society groups rallied behind her, arguing that the punishment was politically motivated. Women's rights organizations in particular saw in Natasha's ordeal a reflection of the larger struggle of women in public life. The double standards, the silencing, the institutional pushback whenever they speak up against entrenched power. Ordinary Nigerians expressed mixed emotions. Some saw her as a bold fighter standing against harassment and unfairness. Others accused her of violating Senate rules and argued that discipline was necessary to maintain order. But what no one could deny was that her suspension left Kogi Central voiceless, a constitutional injury that made the debate much larger than one person. International media picked up the story too. Headlines in global outlets framed it as a test of Nigeria's democracy and a mirror of gender challenges in politics across the world. By the time the court declared the suspension excessive, Natasha had become a symbol, not just a senator in conflict with her chamber, but a woman whose fight touched the conscience of a nation. Before we continue, don't forget to like this channel, subscribe, share your thoughts in the message section, and share this so that many can hear about this, and you can have unlimited access to every necessary information you should get as a good patriot and citizen. Let's continue with Natasha's return, what it might mean. When September 2025 arrived, the 6-month suspension had officially lapsed. The question on everyone's lips was, would Natasha return? For her constituents, her resumption meant that their voice in Abuja would be restored. For her supporters, it meant that justice had not been fully strangled. For the Senate, however, her return was more complicated, because while the punishment had technically ended, a legal appeal was still pending. Symbolically, Natasha's return is more than just one senator walking back into the chamber. It is about whether the Nigerian Senate respects the rule of law and the Constitution's guarantee of representation. If she is fully restored, it signals that democracy still corrects itself, even after excesses. But if barriers remain, then it suggests that legislative power can, when provoked, continue unchecked, even beyond constitutional limits. Her return also sets a precedent. It could embolden other lawmakers to resist arbitrary discipline. It could inspire women in politics to raise their voices against harassment or unfair treatment. And it could force the Senate to rethink how it disciplines members, ensuring that rules are clearer, penalties proportionate, and justice impartial. To talk about the critiques, risks, and uncertainties. Yet Natasha's comeback is not without risks and uncertainties. First, the legal ambiguity lingers. The Senate leadership has insisted that since the case is still under judicial review, she cannot be fully reinstated administratively. This creates a dangerous precedent that a punishment can continue even after its expiration, simply because an appeal is pending. Second, there is the risk of political marginalization. Even if she is allowed back, will she be given meaningful committee roles? Or will she be sidelined, her influence clipped, her motions ignored? A return without real power is symbolic but hollow. Third, there is the matter of personal retaliation. Natasha has stood against the Senate president, a figure of immense political weight. In Nigeria's political climate, where loyalty is often prized above dissent, will her boldness make her a target for future disciplinary measures, subtle exclusions, or political isolation? And finally, there is public expectation. Her supporters now see her as more than a senator, as a heroine of resistance. They expect her to fight for reforms, for gender equity, for justice. This burden could become overwhelming, especially in a political arena where alliances are fragile and compromises unavoidable. Let's see to what should be done now. To prevent further erosion of trust and to strengthen democracy, several steps must be taken immediately. 1. Full restoration of rights. Natasha must be restored, not halfway, not in name only, but fully. Her office reopened, her aides returned, her salaries paid, her committee roles reinstated. Anything less is continued punishment by another name. 2. Judicial clarity. The Court of Appeal must expedite its decision. Prolonged ambiguity is dangerous for both the Senate and Nigeria's democratic credibility. Once judgment is delivered, both sides must respect it, without excuses. Third, reform of Senate rules. The Standing Orders and the Legislative House's Powers and Privileges Act should be amended to set clear limits on suspensions, define misconduct, and ensure fair hearing. No senator should again be silenced for months without clear justification. 4. Institutional mechanisms for harassment. Claims Natasha's original petition, the trigger for all this, was about sexual harassment. Nigeria's Senate must create an independent body to handle such allegations, with impartiality and protection for complainants. Without this, any woman who speaks up risks being punished instead of heard. 5. Public oversight, citizens, civil society groups, and the media must continue to watch the process closely. Democracy thrives not only on what leaders do, but on what the people demand of them. Conclusion. The story of Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan's suspension and return is not just a story about one senator. It is a mirror held up to Nigeria's democracy. It asks, can power be challenged without retaliation? Can women speak up without being silenced? Can the Constitution protect citizens against excesses of authority, even within the legislature? Her ordeal has revealed both the fragility and the resilience of Nigerian democracy. Fragility because internal rules were used to silence an elected voice. Resilience because the courts intervened, the public rose in debate, and her constituents refused to be forgotten. As she prepares to walk back into the chamber, the world watches. Her return is not just about reclaiming a seat, it is about reclaiming the principle that no Nigerian, man or woman, should be shut out of democracy unjustly. In the end, the question is larger than Natasha. It is about whether Nigeria's Senate will rise above personal power plays and embrace the higher call of service, fairness, and constitutional duty. Her story will be remembered, either as the moment when the Senate corrected itself, or as the moment when its overreach scarred democracy. The choice is theirs. The lesson is ours. Don't forget to like this channel and simply subscribe. Share your thoughts in the message section and share this so that many can hear about this and you can have unlimited access to every necessary news information you should get as a good patriot and citizen.